frigate bird soars above the J.N. Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge on Sanibel Island. San Carlos Bay washes the shores of the refuge. Muggy and the school of mullet explore the shallow water where roseate spoonbills feed. Great blue herons wade in the water. Ibis sit on the prop roots of the mangroves. Beneath another mangrove, Muggy looks up. He thinks he sees a cloud, but it's not a cloud. It's a snowy egret stabbing the water with its sharp bill. It grabs a fish near Muggy, and Muggy zips away. The school of mullet passes the edge of Sanibel Island. A road, called a causeway, links Sanibel to the mainland. The causeway includes 3 bridges and 2 islands. The islands were made from spoil from dredging. Before it was built, the water flowed easily through San Carlos Bay. Now the islands of the causeway block the flow and push a strong current under each of the bridges. That strong current pulls the mullet toward the channel. A loud roar scares Muggy and the other mullet. Dredges are working along the causeway. Like vacuum cleaners, they suck up the sand from the boat channel. The sand, or spoil, is pumped out. The sand is sometimes used to build the islands between the bridges. The school of mullet tries to circle around the dredge, but one mullet is too close and the pipe swallows it. When it is dumped out with the sand, it is already dead. Many other animals and fish are also killed. The spoil smells like rotting fish for many days. Some of the dead fish float out into the water. A black-tipped shark is eating them. The school of mullet turns away and the shark chases them. The school zigzags in the water. Because it is so big, the shark can't turn as quickly, and Muggy and the school escape. An osprey soars above the school and dives toward the water. It grabs a mullet and flaps its wings. It flies to its nest carrying the heavy mullet. Muggy and the other mullet zip into the seagrass. They see several manatees. The manatees graze on the seagrass, and the mullet eat the tiny plants and small animals that live on or in the seagrass. The mullet and the manatees feed together. I'm Carol Mahler, author of Adventures in the Charlotte Harbor Watershed. Today, I'm at the television studios of the School District of Lee County, and with me is Toni Westland.
Hi, I'm Supervisory Refuge Ranger Toni Westland out at the J.N. Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge on Sanibel Island, Florida.
Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
You're going to read a part of the book?
I am. The section on fishing by Lisa Figueroa, Taylor Ranch School, Sarasota. The Charlotte Harbor Estuary is home for many kinds of fish. They also thrive in the estuary's freshwater lakes and streams. Many tourists and residents enjoy fishing. Fish eat plants and animals, and other fish and animals eat them. They are important to the food chain, so rules are made for fishermen about the size and number of fish they can keep. Other fishermen release their catch. Although some kinds of nets have been banned, commercial fishermen work in the estuary. Fish are not as plentiful as they were in the past. Some say the reason is too much fishing, and others blame pollution or loss of habitat.
Thanks for reading that. Now, you brought some fishing gear with you today.
Yes, we want people to come out and fish. You know, a lot of our tourism is built around fishing. We hope people can get out and fish. We want them to do it on refuges, but we all need to be ethical when we do it and responsible fisher stewards. Here's some of the stuff that we've acquired. This was all taken in just 1 year out at the refuge. If we're going to allow fishing, we also have to then get out and pick up the trash that might be found behind.
So if I'm out fishing and something happens to my line, it gets tangled or whatever, what should I do?
You know, the best thing to do is get to that fishing line. A lot of it's clear and the birds can't see it, so if it's caught in the mangrove trees and you decide to pull and just let your line break, that fishing line is left behind. Birds will fly into the trees, they'll get tangled in the fishing line. And so before we even want that to happen, we need to get to our fishing line. If you're in a kayak or a boat, it's easy to do. Get over there. Even if you have to break the branch, a small portion of the branch of the tree, to get the fishing line, that's better than leaving it behind. We also have things like plastic bags. You're going to see this along the beach and everywhere floating in the water. Sometimes, people don't notice and it's flying out of their boats or from them. So anytime we can pick up plastic bags, this is definitely one of the causes for sea turtle injuries and death.
I see a ribbon in your jar that looks like it might have come from a helium balloon.
Yes, everybody loves parties and birthdays, and even within my own life, I've had to make choices to not have those things at parties because they do get away from people. Maybe some people do balloon releases, but we do find a lot of the leftover balloons inside of birds when we help rescue them and send them to crows. So any of this stuff is hazards to wildlife.
Well, thank you for talking with me today. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carol Mahler, author of Adventures in the Charlotte Harbor Watershed. Today I'm at the television studios of the school district of Lee County, and with me is Toni Westland.
Hi, Toni Westland from the J.N. Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge, where I'm a park ranger, and that's located out on Sanibel Island, Florida.
Thanks for being here with us today, Toni, and you're going to be part of the book.
I am. The Barrier Island section, written by you. Hickory Island, Lover's Key, Black Island, Estero Island, Sanibel Island, Captiva Island, North Captiva Island, Cayo Costa, Gasparilla Island, Little Gasparilla Island, Don Pedro Island, and Minnesota Key are all barrier islands. They are located between the estuary and the Gulf of Mexico, so they protect or shelter the estuarine waters. Gulf water washes the sloping beaches of the barrier islands. The shallow water keeps the large waves from forming. With help from offshore breezes, the sloping shore also keeps the sand from piling up in dunes. Although they look solid, barrier islands are unstable land masses. Waves, winds, and rising sea levels change their shapes and locations in a process called littoral drift.
Thanks for reading that.
Yes.
Now, a barrier island has two sides to it. One faces the estuary and the other faces the Gulf of Mexico.
Correct. So I work out on Sanibel Island, and you listed all of those islands within our area. So the bay side, the estuarine side, is usually full of mangroves. You can see back here, this is a picture of the Ding Darling Refuge, all of the mangroves, the bay side, Pine Island Sound. And then the other side would be the beach side, which most people are known for because they go out shelling and spending a great afternoon.
Well, so what's the advantage for wildlife? Do they like the beach or do they like the estuary?
Wildlife is opportunistic, but there's definitely ones that prefer the Gulf and then ones that prefer the estuary. Places like this, the mangrove islands, it's great habitat and protection. These areas protect us from large storms, but they're great habitat for people and great places to visit.
Thanks for talking with me today. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Large seagrass meadows and many mangroves fill Estero Bay, and the school of mullet finds many places to hide. From deeper water, a sea trout charges and chases until it catches a mullet. Muggy and the others escape. They swim to Mound Key, a state archaeological site where the Calusa Indians built their main village. For at least 2,000 years, the Calusa Indians lived in Charlotte Harbor. The Spaniards visited Mound Key when they explored Florida more than 500 years ago. On this key, the Calusa made huge mounds of shells and dug canals. Muggy and the mullet explore one of the canals. Mangroves grow in it. Fiddler crabs crawl along the roots, and spiders spin webs through the branches. Muggy can hear a prairie warbler trilling its notes. Then a snook charges up the canal. The school of mullets scatter. Some wiggle between the mangrove roots. Muggy and the other mullet turn back to the bay. They race through the canal, and the snook chases them. Muggy and two other mullets zip into the bay. A bald eagle swoops toward them and snatches one mullet in its talons. The snook grabs the other. The third is Muggy. He searches through the seagrass for the rest of the school, but he can't find them. After a while, he jumps into the air. He does not jump like a dolphin, which dives head first and curves its body. Muggy holds his body stiff. Instead of his nose, his belly hits the water first, and he looks like someone making a belly flop. Mullet in the mangroves and in the seagrass hear Muggy jump. They glide toward the sound. Now Muggy is in a school of fish again. I'm Carol Mahler, author of Adventures in the Charlotte Harbor Watershed. Today, I'm at the television studios of the school district of Lee County, and with me today is Melissa and Nell Cain.
Hi, Carol. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks.
Well, thank you for having me again today. Today, I am going to read a contribution by Lisa Figueroa from Taylor Ranch School in Sarasota, and she writes about the intercoastal waterway. Florida has lost about 60,000 acres, or 8% of its estuaries to dredge and fill activities. Like digging in the sand, dredging displaces large amounts of sand to create channels for boats. Dredged in the 1960s, the intercoastal waterway is a channel 9 to 12 feet deep that allows boats to travel fast without going into the open water of the Gulf of Mexico. If you don't spend a lot of time boating, you may not realize that boats can hurt the manatee. Manatees can't hear low-frequency noises like boat motors, and they cannot move quickly out of a boat's path. Many die from propeller injuries, while others survive with huge gashes on their bodies. Pollution from boating and trash from careless people can also hurt plants and animals in the estuary.
Thanks for reading that, Melissa. Now, do you have any part of that intercoastal waterway in the area where you are?
We do. We have sort of Manatee County is north, and the farthest north part next to Polk County in the Charlotte Harbor Estuary, and we have a section of the northern part of it.
And how about manatees? Tell us a little bit about manatees.
Sure. While manatees are really neat animals, they are mammals, which means they can live in the water, but they have to be able to breathe air. So when you see them out in the waterway, a lot of times you just sort of see this gray kind of lump, and every once in a while you might see a nose come out and spray water or just kind of snuffle out into the air as they take a deep breath. And you can kind of see in the picture behind us, that's a mother manatee and her calf. You can kind of see that's the shape that you would see if they were out in the water.
Now, how should people interact with manatees?
Well, they really shouldn't interact with them at all. Everyone, I think, sees them, and they kind of are known to be very gentle creatures, which they are, and folks really want to interact with them. But we always have to remember that they are wild animals, and that means that really and truly we should not be going up to them and trying to feed them or pet them or really interact with them in any way.
So the best thing to do is just stand back and watch.
Right, absolutely. Anytime you see wildlife in nature, the best thing to do is just try to be as quiet as possible and watch them from a respectful distance.
Well, thanks, Melissa, for being here today and talking with me.
Oh, you're welcome, Carol. See you guys next time.
Muggy sees two kayaks and hears the dipping of the paddles. The paddles stop and the kayaks drift near the mangroves. Muggy hears the girl say,
"I've never seen a river like Estero."
Her uncle says,
"And it's been used by people for a long time."
She says,
"Sure doesn't look like it."
"What did you think about that Korean community?"
Her uncle asks. She says,
"They had some funny ideas. I can't believe they planted a Melaleuca trees because they wanted to dry up the Everglades."
"I know."
The man drinks from a water bottle.
Melaleuca also keeps any other plants from growing, and animals and birds need those plants to live.
From underwater, Muggy watches a crab crawling on the prop roots. The girl says,
"I saw a bunch of dead Melaleuca trees along Interstate 75.
He says,
"It's a lot of work to kill them. Workers have to inject them with a chemical a little at a time so the trees die slowly. If the tree thinks it's dying, it releases 1 million seeds, and each one will grow a new tree.
What a mess.
she says. Her kayak rocks as she shifts her weight. In the shade of the kayaks, Muggy sees comb jellies and seahorses in the seagrass. The girl says,
I'm a mess too. My arms hurt already, and we haven't gone very far on the Blue Way.
he says,
I love these Blue Way trails because it's a nature trail for canoes and kayaks. It's the best way to enjoy Estero Bay and other estuaries.
she asked,
Didn't you say Estero Bay was only aquatic preserve in Florida?
he says,
It isn't the only one, but it was the first.
Muggy sees a needlefish. The school dives deeper into the mangrove roots. The girl asks,
Can we pedal all of the Blue Way trails?
her uncle says.
We will, but not today. Let's go.
Their paddles dip into the water, and Muggy shifts with the movement. Hi, I'm Carol Mahler, author of Adventures in the Charlotte Harbor Watershed. Today, I'm in the television studios of the School District of Lee County, and with me is Toni Westland.
Hi, I'm Toni Westland, Supervisory Refuge Ranger at the J.N. Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge out on Sanibel Island.
Thanks for being here today.
Thanks.
We're going to read part of the book.
Yes, we're going to read the Florida Aquatic Preserves and State Buffer Preserves written by you. In 1966, residents and legislators worked to mark special natural areas of freshwater, saltwater, and the mix of two. The 6 areas around Charlotte Harbor are Lemon Bay Aquatic Preserve, Cape Hayes Aquatic Preserve, Gasparilla Sound and Charlotte Harbor Aquatic Preserve, Pine Island Sound Aquatic Preserve, Matlacha Pass Aquatic Preserve, and the Estero Bay Aquatic Preserve. The boundaries are the high tide lines of the named bodies of water and their tributaries upstream as far as the tide reaches. Most of the open water in Charlotte Harbor Estuary is included in these 6 preserves. Also, since the 1970s, more wetlands and uplands near the shores have been protected and are now part of the Charlotte Harbor and Estero Bay Buffer Preserve State Parks.
Thanks for reading that.
Yes.
All right, so if we've got these protected areas all along the water's edge, what does that do for us?
You know, I think that's very important not only for us, but of course the wildlife. You know, we don't have the development all the way up to the water's edge, so it protects us from storms and hurricanes, providing habitat for the wildlife, and not to mention what we can do there, the boating, the fishing, the food for us, and the food for the animals.
So it works out so that it's good for everyone.
Definitely does.
Thanks for talking with me today. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Estero Boulevard bridges Big Carlos Pass and New Pass and goes through Lover's Key State Park. Muggy hears the noise of cars and trucks. The school of mullet feeds with seahorses and pipefish in the seagrass that grows between Lover's Key and Long Key. Suddenly, Muggy sees a large shape, but he is not afraid. It is a sea turtle. The mullets swim into the shade of an observation platform. 4 legs and feet dangle in the water, too large and too small. Muggy hears the talking of the people on the platform.
I can't believe how many turtle nests we saw on the beach.
A girl says.
Sea turtles like this beach.
Her mother says.
This place is so beautiful.
The girl says.
And if it hadn't been saved from development, it would look just like Fort Myers Beach.
Her mother explains.
It seems built up enough with the parking lot, roads, picnic tables, shelter, and restaurants.
The girl says. She moves her legs back and forth in the water, and Muggy plays in the currents that she makes. Her mother says.
I wish it had become a park before the developer dug those canals in Black Island where we hiked.
The girl asks.
What's wrong with canals?
Her mother replies.
Black Island was mangrove wetlands, and workers dredged the canals. They piled the spoil beside them. It made the land higher, and now it is uplands where mangroves can't grow. That higher land is home to plants and animals that never lived there. The ones that used to live there, like the mangroves, had to find other places.
Does that include people?
The girl rests and Muggy circles her legs. Her mother says,
There are artesian wells where fresh water flows from the ground without being pumped. People used to live here in fish camps.
I wish I could have seen it before the changes.
The girl kicks both feet up. Water flies across the surface and falls like raindrops. She plunges her feet back into the water with a splash. Muggy and the mullet scatter for a moment, but they gather again. Maybe Muggy has found a home with them. Her mother says,
The story's the same throughout the Charlotte Harbor Estuary. Somehow we have to find a place for everyone, even the plants and animals, to live.
For free classroom materials, please visit our website at www.chnep.org.